what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Chocolate Saiyan, Righteous Force, Flatzoid, and Sleeping Warrior, also Arwin, in the Google Plus Hangouts. How are you doing, one and all?
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hey. Also got a fair few people in Discord. Hello to all of you in Discord.
Hello.
Hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nope.
Nope. Not from any vantage point.
About Discord server. Any remarks? Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nope.
The concealment.
None whatsoever.
The things disappearing from the bottom up. Oh God, it proves so much.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
I'm afraid not, no.
Yeah,
No.
we can measure
Nothing here, sorry.
What, P. Meisty?
Owen Benjamin
I think,
did a
yeah,
good
we
piece
can,
on that
we
yesterday.
can measure axial rotation in a couple of ways, or at least
Cool, let's hear
Arwin,
it.
do you have a
Sleeping
crush on
Warrior.
Owen Benjamin?
Hold on. You say we can measure axial rotation how, sorry?
I said we can observe it and measure it in a few different ways.
Yeah, I heard the claim. Do you want to expand on that?
Yep. Sure. So I want to put three things we can even just do two. But they have to go together, so give me 1 minute to say what each of them are. Number one, the farther you go from the North Pole, the lighter things get with the same mass that you measure. And then two, if you...
Hold on, just one at a time. Sorry.
Hold on.
Well, no, we just need one claim at a time. Hold on,
Hold
one
up.
claim at a time. I don't want a scattergun of 5 different claims. So you say
No,
moving
hold
from...
up. No, I just wanted to name two. The last one is if you put a
No, we'll deal with one at a time. Are you deaf? So, you claim that moving from the North Pole with a weight proves Earth spins. Please elaborate.
No, no, I didn't say it proves Earth spins. I said that it is.
We're asking for proof of axial rotation. Are you dumb or deaf?
No, you asked for evidence of it.
Yeah, you stupid, dumb, deaf moron. So, you claim, having been asked for evidence of axial rotation, that you move from the North Pole with a weight and it changes. Now expand on that and explain how it... You see, before the show you asked why we get triggered. Or we don't have cordial conversations. And you are now talking over the top of me. You are talking over the top of me. You are still talking over the top of me because I am yet to finish... Right, I'm going to give you one more chance, you stupid triggered fundy twat, and then I'm going to kick you out. While I talk, you don't. So, we've had a claim, In response to the question regarding axial rotation, you have made a claim that you move from the North Pole and things change weight. Now I want you to expand on that and how it proves we spin.
Because if there were spin, you would experience centrifugal force. Centrifugal force would give way to different weights at different latitudes, which you can measure from the center point, which would be the North Pole.
Right, you didn't explain how it proves we spin.
Yes,
don't get
centrifugal
it.
force is the way that it
Your
shows.
mic is absolutely awful. I can hardly make out a single word that you say.
My apologies.
He said if the Earth spins, it creates centrifugal force. So he's back into
No.
begging the question.
No.
So,
I
yeah,
said
how
if
is that
the Earth
registered
spins,
then?
we would be able to see that in centrifugal force. I didn't say it proves centrifugal force. That would be a logical fallacy. I said we would be able to see it. And then I say we do see that. That's simply an observation. That's how the scientific method works. You make
No,
a hypothesis. Okay.
Oh, sorry. So this is an adherence.
Why did you shoot yourself in the foot?
Okay, he's just claimed it's an adherence to the scientific method. Okay, so what's the independent and dependent variable for the hypothesis?
Oh, hey, Nathan, we're not going to.
Not hey, Nathan. Listen up, Dumbo. I'm asking a very specific question, which I'm not going to allow you to obfuscate by talking over me indefinitely, so I'll make it absolutely and abundantly clear what I'm asking for, given that you've just said that's what you do in the scientific method. The scientific method has a very specific process attached to it, and I'm asking for two details that would make this relevant to the scientific method. Number one, the independent...
Have very specific details, Nathan.
He's talking over me again, isn't he? Number
No, you're
one,
making a false
and there he
claim.
goes again, talking over me again. Number one, I would like the independent variable, presumed cause of the effect, and I would like the dependent variable, claimed natural phenomena, please.
No thanks, Nathan, because...
What do you mean, no thanks? Yeah, you are a fundy zealot. You've just made up a load of crap with a formal logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. And after doing so, you've declared that you've got science adherence. You haven't. And when asked for the validity that you may even have a semblance of scientific validity in your bullshit that you claim, you say no thank you.
Who is strawman?
And talks all over me indefinitely while I point out that he hasn't got any scientific validity. I've asked him for an independent and dependent variable, and he said no thanks.
Nathan, you were the one talking...
What does conceptual
My
mean?
response.
Right, you're going to get this question, you're going to answer it, or I'm going to kick you
No
out.
thanks.
No thanks. No thanks. So the question on the table yesterday, given that you declared that we have a force, was what's conceptual mean?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure it doesn't mean aha.
What's
Nathan,
concept?
we're talking
What does
about the fact
conceptual
that
mean?
we're talking about the fact that we observe different weights the farther you get away from the North
No, I've heard your stupid, shitty claim that you said was scientific, and that's what you have to do if you adhere to the scientific method. And I asked you specifically for your independent and dependent variable, not to piss the stupid, shit, non-scientific claim in our face for a second time!
Rotation.
You think location is an independent variable?
No, I didn't say that.
Where's
Nathan,
John now?
But that was a nice try.
I think he's just trolling you now.
I'm going to kick him out in a minute.
No, I'm not. I'm simply sticking
Same
to
guy
my...
You
said
said-
everything's too complex.
You said that's what you do in the scientific method. Those were your words. Now I want an independent and dependent variable for this claim to be an adherence to the scientific method example, aka bullshit, that you have spewed in our faces twice.
No, not really.
No, not really. Bye-bye. You're not welcome here anymore, you stupid fundy dick. When it comes to you actually providing proof for anything you claim, you say no thank you. When it comes to me pointing out that you're bending conceptual mediums to give rise to forces, and I ask you to find what conceptual means, you say no thank you. You are not welcome here. The reason we get pissed off is because we're winning this argument, and all you've got when we pull apart your claims is no thank you.
But I think this is the same guy that said complex fallacy or something last week, I think. the week before.
The guy's an idiot.
Yeah, that's a reverse reification
Yep.
guy.
Yeah, when it gets to the nub of his claim being absolutely demolished, he says no thank you, when we want him to make the point that demolishes his own claim, because he doesn't like us toying with him, pointing out the stupidity of his own claims. He'd rather just say, no, I'd rather just reassert it 3 more times. No thank you, no, proof of my claim, no. I'm not going to give you any cowbell, but I'll piss it in your face 4 more times. The claim, that is, not any proof or validity.
Well, this guy actually claimed he could see Earth's curvature from an airplane, if it's the same guy we were thinking about.
He's a fundy, he's a zealot. He asked us earlier,
What?
projecting all over us, why is it that shouldn't you guys go away and try and have a conversation without arguing? Oh, well, shouldn't you try not talking over the demolition of your fundamentalist religious belief in a sphere every time you come here? I think so. Any evidence of the scientific variety for gravity?
Gravity?
No.
What? Something? What? Nope.
No.
No, they can't even describe it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was. Do you know what? You took the words right out of my mouth. Ball earthers cannot give a consistent definition for what even is gravity. How can you expect anybody to prove gravity when they can't even define it? It seems untenable to me.
Yeah, is it an effect or is it a force or what is it? Is it a manifestation? Nobody knows.
No, it's not that nobody knows. It's that it's not there, and they can't tell us it's not there. But they want us to make us think it's there by talking about it all the time. Well, let's just point out that the claim now is not that they can't prove gravity. It's that they can only talk about it to reify that it's a thing. The more they talk about it, the more real it appears. But really, they can't even define it, let alone prove it.
Nah, man, it's whatever it needs to be, whenever and however it needs to be. It does
Just
what
as
it
to-
needs to do. It makes things orbit. It makes things pull. It makes everything happen. It pulls planets together with rocks and stuff. It's great.
Unicorn
It's
fart.
awesome.
Well,
Do you know what was really
remember-
funny? I had a troll in my comments, and he gave me a link to a guy that had tried to address the relative density disequilibrium claim, and he'd done a dedicated video to it. So I watched it, and I realised that this is worth a response. He didn't have that many subs, but the level of trolling in his video was really high because he'd applied lots of mathematics to try and bamboozle anybody that's kind of like 50-50 on this into thinking his argument was totally credible. However, it was based on logically fallacious reasoning on numerous counts, which I demonstrated in the video. But what was really interesting was that he made the claim in the video that if something has a value of 0 or less than 0, that takes it into the imaginary area, like the it's not real scenario, like imaginary world. And he was distinguishing the mathematics from real world, because we all know that if you've only got 2 ice creams, you can't take 5 ice creams off. Well, that's the point he was making. The minute it goes into a negative value, it's not real world and it's imaginary. And immediately I thought, you mean like Einstein's mathematical concept that we call gravitation and the bending of space-time? You mean like that, the imaginary world? And I just found the hypocrisy amazing. And it's just bad that they'll use the imaginary world of like negative numbers when it suits them, but when it doesn't suit them and they think that it applies against us, they'll quickly flip that off and say that it's imaginary. And it's like, you don't realize that the whole concept of gravitation, according to Albert Einstein, is imaginary. None of it's real.
And the Big Bang.
Well-
We covered this on Ballbusters on Saturday, right? They divide by 0 and come up with infinity.
Yeah.
Contradiction.
Well, it was you, Anthony, who rattled Fight the Flat Earth to get Mooser on, and Mooser said it. It's magical. That's all they
I
got.
love it.
It's magical. They can't explain it because the Earth is not spinning. If it was
Oh,
spinning,
they-
you'd be able to prove it. But
They
since
can
it can't
explain
be,
it.
No, what I'm trying to say is this, that they are resorting to a word called magic. Why?
Thing is, I've been having a back and forth with a lecturer from MIT. I'm not going to say his name for the moment, but he's a currently in practice teaching MIT professor, teaching physics, and his specialty's Einsteinian gravitation, general relativity, right? And I've got to the point in the conversation on gravity where I'm asking him, what is it that makes Newton's apple initially start to move? Obviously, the cord snaps or the stalk snaps that's holding the apple to the tree. But what is it that makes it start to move initially? Not the bit where it's moving and it follows a curved path, trajectory, or whatever, but the initial acceleration from stationary. What is that makes it move? And he stopped talking to me. But what I've noticed is that there's a massive resistance or reluctance to even consider the possibility that the object's mass is just greater than the medium it's in. Now, you can't answer me for what force is making this object move, because obviously, according to Newton's physics and Newton's laws of motion, an object at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by a force, hence the phrase F equals ma. So if the apple starts to move by Newton's maths or Newton's laws of motion, there must be a force making it move. So I'm asking him to demonstrate to me which force is it? Which force is making the apple move when we know that Einstein's is mathematical? And there is no answer. And he stopped talking to me now. He thinks I'm a troll. He thinks I'm winding him up. He doesn't realize he's going to feature in my upcoming video on gravity is insanity, because this is nonsense. The explanation is that the apple starts to move just because it's more heavy than the medium it's in. But he can't have that. I was able to successfully demonstrate that if I had an egg that was suspended in a solution where it was no longer moving up nor down and it was neutrally buoyant, we'll use the phrase because everyone understands what it means, I made it move just by changing the density of the medium, right? And I demonstrated that change in density did cause movement. That doesn't seem to want to pass his lips. And I'm just wondering, why is there not only an avoidance to reference this thing that does make things move, but the insistence on it still being gravity, even though it's a mathematical construct that bends the fabric of space-time and can't cause anything. Ridiculous.
I think they don't want to say that Newton was wrong, or he might have been wrong.
They don't want to say what, sorry?
Ego gets in the way.
Who's drilling?
Somebody in the background with a tape gun's loud as hell there, Chocolate.
Yeah.
Someone posted up that, I think it was you, Anthony, that Einstein never did any scientific method at all. It was a thought experiment. It was just math, and it was in his
it was
mind.
just thought experiment, yeah.
It's a mathematical construct. It doesn't exist. It's a mathematical construct that is numerically represented, right? It doesn't have any real world application. That's been the criticism of Einstein from day one.
So that is where they lie in their problem. So they can't prove it through the scientific method. So you take them and ask the right questions like you do, and then they have to shut up. But the average guy doesn't know how to do that.
Well, I was saying before that maybe it's just that they don't want to accept that maybe Newton was wrong. Maybe you don't need a force to have acceleration.
It's the only way that the universe.
If you got that egg to move without applying some type of force, all you do was change the density of the medium. I don't know. Is that a force or not? That's the question.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, it is.
it is a force in the sense that something does push it, but it's not a force because it lacks the interaction part of force.
Well, it's not like gravity is supposedly suggesting a unified field of force that is just present. That's not reasonable, but force definitely does come into play, visibly, measurably so.
Yeah, but look at the definition of force. So it requires an interaction, not just a push or a pull. It requires something to interact with something, a physical interaction, right?
That's right. So one piece of material of a certain density interacts with the other that is of a difference. And the difference is the cause.
So what made the egg move then? What is the force?
The force is what manifests when it starts to move.
You change the medium.
Force.
The salt interacting with the water, changing the density, moving the egg.
Yeah.
That's all relative.
Yeah, but it lacks an interaction, though.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, there is interaction. You put the salt in the water, right? That itself changed the medium, to change the density of the water.
Yep.
Which in turn moved the egg.
I think there's a valid criticism that it doesn't have the interaction required to satisfy the definition of force, but I'm just saying that it's moot. I'm saying it's worthy discussion. But what I am saying is that we can make things move without touching it. Or if we are touching it, it's arguable what's touching it to make it move, whether it being pressure or being some other force. I mean, at the end of the day, Newton's apple can be made to move without a force, and we demonstrate that. Or is it a force? It's to do with the definition of force.
Just assumed to be. That's the whole point of gravity. It's just assumed to be there at all times, and that contradicts everything. Because force
the apple went up.
is either there or it is not.
So is gravity just still hypothetical? It's not in theory stage.
They gotta have it for the heliocentric model. Gosh, it's so simple. If the Earth is not spinning, it's not round.
Right, but don't forget though, the egg went up, right? Not down.
Yeah, that's just countermanded with the buoyancy counter effect of gravity, if you insist on explaining everything that way.
Yeah, but if the buoyancy counter effect of gravity, if gravity is not a force, then there can't be a buoyant force going the opposite way.
Yeah, but in this case, you would have to presuppose that it is in order to explain it. And when you do, it's not that hard to model everything out, really.
Yeah, but it was still stuck at if F equals ma, and the egg moved, then there must be a force, right? But if it were gravity, then it must be the buoyant force, because buoyancy is dependent on gravity, but gravity is not a force. So
unless
somebody
was wrong and we don't require a force to move things.
Listen, it's very simple. When Newton did these things, he simply just said, look, you just got to accept this in order for the system to work. That's it.
Well said.
That's it.
Well, that still doesn't really explain what makes the egg move.
Don't worry about the egg. Is the Earth spinning or not? That's why they brought it up. That's why they even. It's like Arwin said. They needed something, and he made it up.
Yeah, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
God knows.
The chicken, of course.
I just hear a rooster in the background just now too.
Yeah,
I did. That's what I heard too.
I was like, wait a minute, am I hearing shit?
That was great timing.
Okay, then.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nah.
Discord, we're talking to you.
No.
Nothing.
No, there's no evidence of molten iron core. Paul Voigt claims he's got evidence of a molten iron core, but he won't show it to us because he says that we're not intelligent enough to understand it. Sounds a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes to me. Or he's just lying.
Are you saying he's avoiding it?
Boom,
boom. Touche. That's very good. Very good.
Any evidence?
Early. Give me time.
Evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
Absolutely not.
Nastosi chemo's not here. Hey.
Yeah, ballers don't like that, the necessary antecedent point. When you remind them that the cause, I mean, this is another way to word that same question. What is the cause of gas pressure? If you go to Google and type in, what is the cause of gas pressure? It'll come back with walls of the container. So it's like, well, we have gas pressure. So where is that container? And they say, well, isn't that for you to prove? I was like, no. It's the necessary antecedent. We accept that there's gas pressure, but where is it coming from? And well, it's gravity. Gravity's not a force, though, is it? So it can't be being caused by gravity. And even if it was, we know that gravity, we know that the causation of gas pressure is the walls of the container. So we have to be contained because we have gas pressure, according to their narrative.
But even as Nathan said it, maybe you can clean up what I'm trying to say, Nathan. You could even give him that argument. It still wouldn't affect the gas.
Entropy takes effect always.
Right. Yeah, they can claim that they're, without any crappy cartoon references, where they're going to get a decent citation that says that gravity's holding gas on when it doesn't. That's not a principle you'll find in physics backed up with any sort of decent citation. Even if it was true, it's not, like I say, even if gravity was real, it's not overcoming entropy.
Since they admit that the atmosphere extends past the moon, they're kind of helping our argument more with that. Because they're admitting to entropy.
It's kind of silly not to admit to it, wouldn't it?
I say about laws of nature.
And here's another thing. If it's extending past the moon, shouldn't the moon absorb all that gas molecules or whatever?
I don't really follow, but
yeah. What I want to know is those gas molecules that are still out there, right? So what's holding those molecules out there? Is it Earth's gravity or is it the moon's gravity?
No, it's the combined.
Oh, they combine forces like the Wonder Twins.
No. But it's it's the warping of space time. So just see it like a big trampoline, and so there's two big balls on the trampoline. So there's a little bit of warping in how gravity is, and
right, two big balls. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a.
So 10 to the minus 7.
See, I totally get it.
They've got a really big issue. Can you all hear me? Yeah, they've got a really big issue with gas pressure because now they can't even solve, 3-body gravitation or 2-body or whatever it is. I mean, more than 2 or 3 or 4, it all goes into, approximations and estimations, and you need supercomputers and all this. So now how are they going to not only account for the different layers, which are all being, affected by gravity of various different bodies, and what about all the, besides the layers, there are all these gas particles as well, of different weights, of different chemical makeup, hydrogen or oxygen or carbon dioxide or whatever. I think they're going to be really stuck on that because you've got all these interactions that basically take that n-body problem to infinity.
Then you got the other problem with the moon, right? So the moon can affect supposedly the Earth's water to affect tides, but it doesn't affect any of the gas. The sun's massive gravitation that allows comets to go out of the solar system and come back in 86 years later, but that doesn't affect any of the gas on Earth. Come on, it's nonsense.
Yeah, but they can always drop that story, though. They could always drop it, just like Coriolis nonsense.
Well, they haven't dropped it yet, so
Why do you,
they're just.
Why do you think they went to time?
What?
Why do you think they went to what?
Why do you think they went to the official space-time? What are they saying by time? Are they saying time, entropy doesn't affect time? Is that what they're trying to say?
No, they simply just put it. They put time on another dimensional scale, so it's like it's basically like 3D time modeling.
Time and entropy are proportional anyway, so.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. They move from gases and saying entropy, something can't do or can do to gases, and they say, oh, by the way, it's not mass attracting mass, it's space-time in the fourth dimension.
It's total nonsense because, hey, you can definitely model, can make a model about 3D space and time and then work with that, but to then make a claim that conceptualization is the actual origin of a physical real-life thing, now that is absurd.
Well, no, that's a reification fallacy.
Speaking of reification, this guy that tried to debunk me last night, he created his own model to explain the egg moving. Told me that it didn't match reality, and then used his own failing model to debunk my claim that relative density was the cause, completely ignoring that the independent variable that was manipulated did make something move. But he claimed his model failed to match reality, therefore I was debunked. I didn't make a model, he made a model. So basically he debunked his own model, but then credited it to me. Shout out to a bit of fake science.
It's called a straw man fallacy.
Yep.
Any evidence for the distance of the sun?
What is the sun?
No, nobody's running no tape measures up to it. They just assume an R value and then apply Kepler's third law.
No apparent distance.
Apparent, yeah. They've got an apparent distance, but what's that mean? Not actual.
Yeah, I want to see someone go to the sun.
Well, you won't burn up if you go to the sun. It's just getting there you might get burned up.
I'm just going to approve Jazaconda's comment and read it out. Bear with me. It's not, quote, gas pressure, end quote, assholes. The atmosphere is not under gas pressure, you dumb. See you next Tuesdays.
Question for Jazz. What is the atmosphere made of, Jazz?
Is this the
Must be
same
made
cloud
of
guy?
magic gas.
Sorry, can someone just Google search Atmo and put up the definition?
Jessica has been infected by the chemo virus.
No.
I love it. I love it. Because the atmospheric pressure doesn't have the word container in the definition. They try to avoid gas pressure like the plague and say it's atmospheric. Well, what
Yeah, of
does
course.
the atmosphere made of? Is it gas, maybe?
Yeah, these
It's like when they
they're trying to find
It's just the same as when they have gravimeters. They have these things called gravimeters that are basically numbers on a. You have like an X, Y, Z axis number, and the numbers. Now, some people interpret these gravimeters based on their name to be, oh, they must be recording gravity then, right? But basically all they show is numbers. But if I called it a unicorn fart machine, then it would indicate that it's measuring unicorn farts. If I said that it was a something, you know, something that leads you into thinking it's something, then it can influence your perception of what it's actually doing.
But
And this
it's
is
not-
the fundamental problem with redefining terms, because they realize that gas pressure requires a container. So they think, right, let's redefine that word and we'll use a completely different word and we'll make it have the same thing. But it's doublespeak.
Did you say gravimeter? Does it measure gravy?
My God.
Oh.
As far
Any
as I can tell, it
evidence?
measures unicorn. They haven't manipulated anything to prove what it claims it's measuring, because it could be measuring electrostatic effects in the atmosphere. It could be magnetism. It could be anything. It could be literally anything. It could be the amount of light that's passing through it. It could be amount of
Maybe it's
reflection
just
occurs.
measuring a very small standard scale inside of a vacuum or whatever. And then they're just saying, oh, we're measuring these particles. These particles. It's just a miniature scale. That's it.
It only
I
exists in
think that's,
Narnia.
that's probably it.
It only exists in Narnia. They make it up in their make-believe space.
Yeah.
It's just too small to see, so they can make up whatever.
One last one. Any evidence of the radius of the Earth, the R value?
No, they just assume it. at the
Nah,
beginning of every
for that
single
we might
example.
want to go back to the first one and ask where's the curvature first. You know, we might need that before we find a radius. So yeah.
Hey, Ranty.
Hello, hello. How's it
Hey,
going?
Ranty.
Hi,
How did you get
everyone.
on? I
Morning.
caught about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes at the most of your show with George yesterday. So my apologies for not tuning in to more. I had a after show and whatever running at the same time. But how did you get on?
It was long. I mean, it went on for nearly 3 hours, I think.
Oh, wow.
It was interesting. George's idea that we have a force field around the Earth that protects that's why we have gas pressure.
Wow, he took my idea.
And he literally used the word force field too numerous times.
What?
Wow, he took my idea. That's incredible.
Hold on,
The
Owen.
secondary
Hold on.
gravity force
Hold
field.
on. Carry on, Ranty.
Hang on, Ranty, who are you talking about?
George Netton.
George Netanyuk. Apparently, we have an invisible force field around the Earth that separates the vacuum of space to the gas pressure. So,
Yep, he said it. It's great.
So has he been trolled? Can we claim our first victim of trolling? Can we claim that George has been trolled by Arwin?
No. No,
Oh,
it
come
was
on.
actually a serious suggestion at the time.
Sorry, Arwin.
So there you go, Nathan. That answers your question. How can you have gas pressure without a container? Well, there you go. We've got a force field around us.
Is it a dome?
I guess new housekeeping question. Any signs of a force field?
It's just a secondary gravity barrier side effect. I get it.
We're going straight into Star Trek now, man. Shields up, all of that shit.
Hey, if George is interested
Hold on.
in learning more details about this force field, he's always welcome to ask me.
So, what you said has more truth than you realise, Chocolate saying. Do you want to just repeat what you just said?
I said we're going straight into the Star Trek with the shields up and all that. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. So what you're saying is the reality being described by George Netanyahu is like or akin to science fiction. Well, what we're hopefully highlighting to the audience on this very show and others like it is that what is called science fiction is actually paralleled with pseudoscience as opposed to science. So you could call pseudoscience fiction and the parallel with pseudoscience. So both have hijacked this word science, neither have any validity in that regard. But the actuality about what they're describing is just the science fiction, in quotes, that we are shown at the cinema. That is our worldview that we're put on us, and how we're programmed with it is with science fiction. So our world, our sphere world that we thought we lived on, flying through a vacuum, that's a fairy tale, just like at the cinema when you go and watch Guardians of the Galaxy or Star Trek, as you used as an example, or Star Wars, or anything else that's based in that fake world. Our whole world has been a sci-fi narrative. That's why I say there's more parallels than perhaps you realise when he says we've got a force field around us. Absolutely bloody absurd.
And William Shatner figured this out too when he said science fiction and science are the same.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, he's right.
Well,
I
he
always
should
think
know.
that's the funniest thing, right? William Shatner, Captain Kirk himself.
He's right and he's wrong. I just want to get this in because what they say science is and science fiction are the same. So in reality, pseudoscience and science fiction in this regard, when it comes to astrophysics, are the same. And he's not wrong. But saying science is wrong because you can't compare an adherence to the scientific method, cause and effect relationships, independent and dependent variable, with science fiction, because the two are so far removed from each other it's untrue. But what is parroted and punted as being science, actually pseudoscience astrophysicists observing and declaring what they see based on twinkly lights in the sky, and science fiction are the same, just for clarity.
The body of pseudoscience fiction compels you.
Yeah, well said. Exactly, Alwyn. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, I think we're going to name this. We've got to give it a name, haven't we? So, how about the Atmol field?
No, let's call it the dome field. The dome field. Is that right, George? We've got a dome field around us.
We didn't define it yet?
George,
yeah, there's no name given to it yet.
I've just done it for him. I've just done it for him.
Dome.
It's going to be called.
I'm going to have to go on to Jose's again.
Don't let this get lost. It is now called George Netanyahu's Dome Field. That's what it's called.
Yeah. You know, like we've got the Van Allen radiation belts, we've now got the George Netanyahu Dome Field. That was attributed to by Arwin.
No. He broke with the concept. He made it much more sloppy. He should have just gone with a secondary gravity barrier. I've even laid this out like half a year ago on the show, and everybody was, of course, ignoring it.
So does this conclude housekeeping?
Yeah, that was the last question.
Yay!
What you got something to present?
Anybody got R?
Yeah, we've done R.
There are been none here.
We're still waiting for Spurs to respond to Flatzoid's beautiful presentation, which we could air now, I think, if Nathan wants to.
Sorry, were you talking to me?
Yeah, Flatzoid put up a video of water being separated from an air compressor. And Spurs said last Friday that if you can show me air pressure without water, I'll drop the subject from now on. So let's see if he will.
Oh God, you want to invoke this garbage? Look, we already know this. Why do you want Why is it so important to get the person asserting the nonsense to concede? Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I fell victim to this on this
Because
show.
if he doesn't concede, he'll be back on it tomorrow.
Yeah, but you're actually trying to get him to come on to concede, right? Well, he'll just come on and argue the toss and hand wave it.
Well, he said, if you prove it, I'll stop. And Flatjoy proved it.
When's the last time he's actually answered a question straight? Because as far as I can remember now, in the last few weeks, he's been a total red herring every single time. So,
Well, I showed it to him, so it's up to him to accept or not.
Well done there, Flatjoy. Thanks for taking the time.
I was talking to Right the Hand today, and we were brainstorming, and we were trying to figure this out with what Spurs is trying to say. And I think the main conclusion that we've come to is that we're trying to see it from the globalist side, which is that pressure is caused by weight, i.e. gravity. But what happens if pressure is just caused by volume, and that volume is dictated by the temperature? So the molecules don't behave the way we think they do, which is zipping around everywhere, but they actually just behave as in like expanding and contracting, just like a balloon would expand and contract and take up more volume in a given area. They don't have to be being pulled down. They just need to be like sardines in a can. You put more sardines in when it's warmer and less sardines get taken out when it's cooler. But there's no force pulling them down to create weight, but you would still get pressure, but it would be pressure from the sides more than pressure being pulled down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I saw his video today.
Whose video was that, sorry?
Right the hand.
Oh, has he done one?
Yeah, explained it.
Okay. Yeah, well, we were talking about it a couple of hours ago, so I don't know if he's released it in the last couple of hours, but...
So, like we're living in Jello?
So how does that work in a dynamic system when every day when the sun comes up, life is renewing itself and creating oxygen and everything else?
Well, there's a lot of answers still to be had. We're just still brainstorming this. Something that occurred to me was that when you get high pressure, you tend to get high clouds. So the clouds are much higher when you've got high pressure. And when you've got low pressure and it's cooler and it's more chance of rain, you've got lower clouds. Now, that would fit perfectly well with what I've just explained, which is that these molecules expand under heat. So they would fill up a bigger volume, which would automatically push the clouds higher. So it all sort of falls in. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do on this, but if that's the case, and we can explain that the molecules don't behave the way we think they do, they're dictated to by temperature, but they fill a volume rather than are attributed to weight, which would get rid of gravity.
So when Adam Meakin explained so precisely that the nitrogen won't freeze until it's minus 200 and above, but the oxygen levels freeze at the levels much lower, like minus 30 or whatever he said. What do you make of that?
Well, I make that there's a lot of progress still to be done in this subject. I don't think it's just as clear cut as what we are told. I think there's more to this, and so unless we ask questions and try and brainstorm things.
I just plugged that show. So it's called Flat Earth Debate 926 Premiere Uncut, and Adam Meakin did an absolutely outstanding job. Patience of a saint. He did it with Spurs here. Anyway, check it out. It's at the end of 926, which is Premiere Uncut. That's the name of the show. Flat Earth Debate Premiere Uncut 926 is the number. It's right at the end of that show.
Yeah, because Spurs is denying the existence of gas pressure. But I think he's thinking of it as in pressure, as in being forced with gravity. But if you just use it as an expanse of the molecule under heat, it gets a bit fatter. Each molecule gets a bit fatter. It creates a little more pressure. And if you imagine we're surrounded by all these little bubbles, and they're just getting bigger and smaller due to temperature, but they're not actually being pulled down toward by gravity. Density, buoyancy, heat can all create a pressure gradient. We don't need gravity for that.
So when we have an air compressor on this Earth and it's empty, and then we turn it on and it starts pressurizing, it wouldn't do that without the container. We already know that.
Right.
So you can't have gas pressure.
Where have you brought
Mimic.
a container into it? I've not said anything about a container. I've literally just explaining how what we can identify.
You brought gravity into it.
Yeah, removal of gravity, the complete removal of gravity that we won't need. Gravity doesn't need to be there, and we can demonstrate that by just having a think about how things behave differently. I mean, there's a big thing going on in science about
it wasn't needed to begin with. You're saying the removal. It wasn't needed to begin with.
But we still need to have the answers. There's no point in stopping and just saying, okay, we know everything, because
I'm not saying we do. I'm just saying that gravity, in this regard, when it comes to gas law, provided no answers, wasn't intrinsic, isn't required, didn't overcome any of the arguments in regards to gas law, gas pressure, gas needing a container to press upon to have pressure. None of those things are addressed in any way, shape, or form by gravity.
But you remember those citations that I sent you? I came on before and talked about how the Globe discussed how atmospheric pressure is caused by weight and gravity. And you said you needed citations, and I sent you a bunch of them. There was at least half a dozen or so on the first page of Google. So that's their explanation for why we have gas pressure.
Sure, and their explanation in that regard falls apart because they describe the weight of the gas above pressing down on the gas below. Well, that falls apart when you get to the vacuum, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so the citations are there, but they don't make any sense on account of the fact that the entropy still would take a hold in their example, which is precisely the point. That's to Earth is seriously flat. Gravity bitch will infect UW globe tits. God, man, I really struggle on the best of days.
Global axis.
Can someone else read Earth is seriously flat?
Gravity bitch, it will infected you with globalitis.
Globalitis. I see.
No, globalitis.
I'm going to try that once more. Gravity bitch, it will infect you with globalitis. Yeah,
no,
man.
globalitis. There's two T's there.
Yeah, I think that just could be a typo. Because he's so keen to get everything spelled correctly. Thank you for the super chat. Earth is seriously flat.
So essentially, we're just having a sniff around. We're seeing what's around there. We don't. We just don't. You don't just stop. You have a sniff around. You see what works, what doesn't work. I mean, obviously, we could talk about all kinds of different things, but I'm just trying to get a little more concise as to about how we're trying to understand it from one side, and this might take another few months before we even have a more concise answer to answer your questions there, Nathan.
Fair enough.
There we go.
View it at every angle.
Not yet. This has only been going about a month, so there's only a few of us been talking about it. More people are, but the more we think about it, the more tests we do, we might have some answers. Who knows? I mean, there's a whole world of lies that we need to decipher. But just to say that we have all the answers right now, because we don't. We're still learning. We've got a lot of catching up to do.
Fair enough. Let me know if you find the dome field.
Yeah, agreed.
The dome field. The dome field. It was. Yeah. When he said it, I thought, that's the first time I've heard that. A force field around the Earth.
And Sleeping Warrior's already covered his response video that I also caught a couple of minutes of. Covered flat side. Anybody else got any material out?
Sorry, what did you just say then? I heard my name, Nathan. What did you say?
You covered it at the first third of the show. You did a response video yesterday, and I was just saying, Ranty's just covered his videos that he's got out recently. You've covered your videos that you've got out recently.
Well, yeah, I mean, the main point in my video is that, and I want to talk about this because I think it's really worth pointing out to the people that are new to the topic because we've not talked about this for a while. If you're going to make a model that isn't actually doing science, making a model is not part of scientific method. A hypothesis is part of scientific method. Identifying your dependent and your independent variables is part of scientific method. But making a model isn't part of scientific method. It may have uses. It may be useful to predict patterns, perhaps correlations, even, but not causes. Models don't do cause. Science is about the cause and effect relationship. It's not about correlations. Let's just be really clear. Models they're not part of scientific method. Nathan, do you agree?
Well, ask me a few questions in that regard. So I've got a model and the measurement's been made for the level of unicorn farts that interact with mass. And if you move from the North Pole with mass, it will decrease because of the amount of unicorn farts that are in the atmosphere. And that's because that's adhering to the scientific method.
All right. So if you move south, it changes the amount of molecules, right?
Just ask me for my ID and DV, please.
Oh, okay. Well, should we start with the observed phenomena first?
Yeah, sure.
What's the observed phenomena in this for this model, for its creation to be made?
My assumption of unicorn farts and then some nonsense story that I make up.
Okay. So the independent variable, the cause for the nonsense story?
Definitely not unicorn farts. Even though those are the thing I'm trying to prove, we're going to presuppose they're real. And I'll just decide that location is the independent variable.
Did you put unicorn farts in your mathematics to prove that unicorn farts exist?
I'm going to presuppose they exist because they do.
Oh, right. Okay. So we've got your independent variable, which was location.
Correct.
And we've got a little bit of maths that calculates for unicorn farts. What about the dependent variable?
And presupposes that they're real.
Yeah.
Joke.
What about the dependent variable?
All unicorn jokes here in Fantasyland. Stroking each
Fantasyland.
other's egos.
Fantasyland,
Debunking the
you say?
world.
What was it you said yesterday, Dawn? What about refraction? Weren't you trying to sell us on the idea of hologrammatic clock towers yesterday because of your reification of a sphere model? I seem to think you were.
I'm not
what's
really
that you say,
into
fantasists?
refraction, but obviously it
Hey,
does
Nathan.
explain stuff coming up over the curve.
Hey Nathan, can I make a small prediction about your theory?
I mean, you guys are talking about force. It's a known phenomenon.
Who is it? Just I heard somebody that was referencing George Natanyuk. Please repeat whatever it was you just said, whoever that was.
Shields up. That bit that I was talking about just now. That
the shield. What did George say about a shield?
He said we've got a force field, Dawn, around Earth to maintain the gas pressure.
Oh,
yeah.
Did he say gravity acts like a force field?
Well, I don't care.
Yeah,
Use the word force
is
field.
it that funny? I mean, just as funny as what you think we're talking about.
Not if you said acts like a force field, because that's literally how it acts.
Acts like. What? Acts
Oh,
like?
so it's not funny anymore. Now you just have to explain how.
No, if he said there's a literal force field, then that's a bit misguided. But if he said gravity acts like a force field,
Well, what is it? What is it? What is it? If it's not a force field, like he's saying,
the sentence "gravity acts like a force field around Earth" is a totally normal.
It's not a
sentence.
force
funny
field,
or a
but you
joke.
can think of it as a force field.
That's what most people believe and
It
understand.
manifests itself as a force field.
I know it's a joke to you guys, but you're like 5 people. The rest of the world carries on.
Well, it is a joke. The bending of a conceptual
To you,
medium
yeah. But I'm
known
telling
as
you now, it's not really
space-time.
funny to me. I don't know why you guys find it funny either.
I was just about to tell you.
Because this is your religion.
Your
That's why we
religion
find it
says
funny.
that the bending of a concept, medium that doesn't exist, that's only existing in somebody who's just making it up in their brain, yeah? The bending of that gives rise to a force that's not actually a force but can be thought of a force that gives rise to a force field that acts like a container. Sorry, what were you saying about unicorns again? That's not how it works.
That's not how they word it.
No, yeah, you're damn straight. That's not how it works. Yeah, there is no force of gravity because it's the bending of a concept that was made up by Einstein. So no, it doesn't give rise to any force, and it definitely doesn't make any force fields.
Yeah, gravity acts like a force field.
Gravity acts like no, it's not a force, Dawn. It's a concept. It's not.
No, it
it's the
acts
bending of a concept
like
doesn't do anything.
A force field.
Right. It doesn't do anything. It's the bending of a concept.
Sorry, what? Have you created a force field before?
Not a scientific theory.
I know you don't believe in
Mystic
the theory,
Meg
but that's the
theory.
theory.
Mystic Meg theory, maybe. Certainly not scientific.
I don't
Have you
think it's that
created a force
scientific now,
field before?
You got You guys always jump to explaining what it is. I will never ever, Dawn, hear you say, how the fuck, sorry for the thing, how does it act as a force field?
How?
Yeah,
I think God just designed mass to collect more mass slowly, basically. That's what I think. Like people go towards other people to be together,
Oh God!
socialize.
But mass doesn't attract
I don't
mass.
know exactly how it does it. I don't know. It's one of the
No,
laws
that-
of the universe.
no.
Stuff goes towards stuff.
So is it
We
a
witness
mass
it every
Hold on.
day, don't we? Stuff going towards stuff. It's definitely
Equilibrium,
not
is that what it's
relative
trying to say?
density, I can tell you that.
Hey, Dawn. Let me ask you a question if you don't mind. Are you a fan of Star Trek by any chance?
No, Star Wars, never Star Trek, really.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Star Wars, that's fine. So you accept that Star Wars is not true, right? It's make believe. It's not real, right?
Can you back off your mic just a bit, Smudge?
I think science fiction is based on science, and it is a vision of the future. One vision of the future, yeah.
Can you back off your mic just a bit, please, Anthony? Thanks.
But it's not real, though. That's my point.
I
You
think
accept
I
that it's
heard
not real.
No, I know right now.
I think
it's
I heard
fiction, yeah.
Arwen contest your.
Great interruption.
What are you into, Arwen? You into Star Wars?
Breaking up, my friend. Shout out to 5 Angels for the super chat. A force field that can
I'm a
contain
fan of it
pressure.
all.
Ugh, God.
Star Wars.
A force field that can contain pressure. Oh, now it's gone off my screen. Bloody interruptions. Shout out to 5 Angels. A force field that can contain pressure but allow a cardboard lunar lander to pass through. Lol. Yeah, right on.
Don't forget tinfoil.
Okay, so can I just get back to my question?
Yes.
So, Dawn, you accept that it's not real, yeah?
Yeah, I know it's fiction now. Most of it. Well,
Yeah. It doesn't make you angry because it's not real, does it?
Doesn't what?
It doesn't make you angry because it's not real, right?
No, of course not. I like fiction.
So, if you don't believe that flat Earth's true, why does it make you angry?
Well, it makes me frustrated when I hear people lie to themselves and to other people, but it doesn't really make me angry anymore. It did at the beginning.
You seem to be angry on my post recently. You're doing a lot of the accusation of lying posts.
Yeah, that's
That
frustration.
seems
I still like
intentional.
you as a person.
Is that
Your
here too?
videos have been annoying me because they keep popping up in my notifications. I watch them because it's easy to watch, 2 minutes long, and it's
Well,
just
what would
it's got
be
like
the motivation for
5 lies,
on
5
purpose
lies in
lying
2
to
minutes,
people
and I know
like that?
you know that that's not right, but you're still saying it in your videos, and that makes me frustrated. So I often leave triggered comments.
Yeah, why?
When you say that,
Why would they?
Hang on a sec. Let me just bear with me. When you say that's not right, when you say I know, you know that I know that that's not right. What is it specifically you're referring to that you think that I know that it's not right?
Massive shout out to Tina Baker for hitting the super chat. Says, have a great day. Thanks for all your hard work. Really appreciate your support, Tina Baker. And thank you for supporting me on Patreon. And with that, I'll say if you want to watch the continuation of this conversation, then you're going to need to subscribe to the Nathan Oakley channel. So hit the info box and subscribe there, where the after show and uncut shows take place a few hours after these live streams finish. Massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in live on Nathan Oakley 1980 for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to all of today's panel for making this live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!